Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Creative Walks. I am Pedro Bonatto. Yesterday, I talked about one of my favorite books, and I think every artist and entrepreneur and everyone that wants to do anything that is actually meaningful should read, called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I actually recommend listening, if you're into listening to audiobooks, listen to the audiobook. It's a lot of meaning is conveyed by not only the word on the page, and well, if you listen to podcasts, I'm sure you are interested and familiar with the idea of audiobooks. So in this book, he talks a lot about the concept of resistance, which is our incredible ability to create excuses, to procrastinate, to self-sabotage, and later beat ourselves up because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. For me, the main insight from this book, when I read it the first time, was realizing that these problems I was having as a beginning artist were actually very, very, very common. And very common in successful people of all sorts of creative areas, from photographers to musicians to writers, dancers, whatever. So today I wanted to expand a little bit on how resistance manifests itself and my realization that resistance actually changes over time. It's strange because he actually talked about the idea of resistance being this dragon that you beat, the next day it's there again, and how there are so many different ways that it can manifest. But I never really noticed how it took at least a few years, I guess, to realize, and I just noticed this now, how it changes over time and it masquerades because you solve one problem and then another one appears. And because you think you solved so many resistance problems, you don't even realize when resistance is creeping in a new way of getting you when you least expect. So to do this, and I hope this gives some value in your own journey, is I'll give you a current example of my own resistance early in 2020. I must tell you that I really like working on multiple projects at the same time. Sometimes it seems to be a bit less flowy, or at least you see little results because you are moving very small parts on different things and they don't seem to be going fast enough. Certainly that is a problem, but the alternative for me would be to focus really on one thing. And then if I do that, I often get burned out and discouraged, and I really, even if I have a lot of momentum and a lot of results, I get discouraged because I really enjoy the process. So it's a matter of balancing that according to your psychological makeup, I guess. To me, it's like when you have those jugglers that have a bunch of spinning plates on top of sticks and they keep spinning them and then you have to go from one to the other to keep them spinning without breaking. That's how I actually enjoy doing things. I want to have multiple things working at the same time. And I resisted that for a long time. I thought it was actually a problem and I thought it was terrible. And I thought that was the reason why I was not getting where I wanted to be. But I realized afterwards that if I didn't work that way, I would get bored. So the mastery for me was to how to spin the plates, to have some of them actually spinning fairly fast, not as fast as if I was single-minded focusing on them, but fast enough so that I can see results on that, and one thing could help the other one. About, I guess, 6 months ago, I moved to Ukraine. It was a big shift in my work from being based in Toronto, which I still have a lot of ties, and in Canada, and going to spend some time in Ukraine and in order to explore both the country and the Middle East and other places around in terms of finances and logistics and also proximity to the places and things that I was interested in. I thought it was time, just like when I moved from Brazil to Canada, and after spending 10 years in Canada, I thought I had learned all I could from that country in a way. And Here, I am actually focusing on 4 different projects, and they take most of my time. One of them is a video course platform that I'm developing with my wife, which features her belly dance and folkloric dance classes, which are available for anyone in the world. It's a very cool new project that we're working on that is growing fairly fast since December, and I have so many ideas of how to improve it and how to make that knowledge available for people that sign up and all that. The other one is our clothing line. It's called My Inner Dancer, that is also inspired by Oriental and belly dance themes and world cultures, and I really try to change a few things there and try to make it into a more automatic process in terms of advertising and reaching audiences and all that kind of stuff. The third one is, and that was sort of unexpected, but it's a cool like curveball, is that my drumming career in Canada was basically based on my band, the Blue Dot Ensemble, where I was the leader of the band and getting all the gigs and all the, let's say, creative vision for it. And then when I moved to Ukraine, that sort of stayed on the back burner. But one thing that happened here is that I started being requested as a drummer, as an Arabic drummer for to play in festivals and competitions and so on. It's a very big part of the culture here compared to Canada, at least. And the last one is my podcasts and my writing and my video projects that I do for myself. And those things basically take most of my time. I still work on a few other things, of course, like client work and all that, but these are the main projects I'm working on. But the problem is that even a few months ago, I started having this thing that I would stay awake at night, and it was not like I was anxious or anything, or at least I couldn't identify the anxiety or anything like that. And I have always been a very easy sleeper. I can go to bed and just go to sleep. And even if I am in a chaotic and stressful situation, I can like close my eyes and just sleep. So what was wrong? So these days I just decided to write on a piece of paper whatever 3 things that came to mind, that came every day, that bugged me. And so I'll be a little bit personal on this, but I hope this will be of interest to you in terms of how you can apply to find the things that are bugging you. And sometimes you procrastinate on your favorite projects. As Stephen Pressfield said on The War of Art, the thing that you hold closest to your heart is the thing you're going to avoid the most. So I was really not working on my pet projects or certain pet projects that were very important, and they were because of noble reasons. I was working in all these other things that took time, and they were practical and they were useful, and God forbid, they were actually interesting. But then I wrote on the paper, okay, what are the things that are bringing shame or worry or at least some level of anxiety because I'm not doing. And those were 3 things which are kind of embarrassing that I'm not doing, but that here you go. It's I'm not working on portfolio shoots or new fine art series. I have hundreds of ideas for those things. I have contacts here in Kyiv, but I'm not working on those, not actively. It's sort of like get some inspiration here, get some inspiration there. Oh, there's this person that would be interesting to contact and all that, but I'm not actively seeking it. And I noticed that this is actually a form of resistance because I am using noble reasons, all my other projects, to not work on this one. And that's bringing a level of anxiety and unfulfillment. The other is that I'm not exercising enough. Like even though I got back to the gym a few months ago and I basically started this podcast and I'm going there much more than I was before. It's doing some results, but certainly not with the enthusiasm that I had when I was really exercising and playing tennis and all this sort of things. I couldn't find yet something that will hook me and really get me interested in doing it. I'm sort of going through the motions from a discipline point of view. The third thing, and that's very embarrassing since I am in Kyiv, is that I'm taking almost 0 effort in actually learning Russian properly. And I get by with English and a few things that I know in Russian, but I remember being so interested in actually learning it, but for whatever psychological reason, and I really don't know what it is, I really can't get it started properly. I learn a few things, I stop, I learn a few things, I stop. And I know that those are all things that are related to this idea of resistance, because I know that for the things that I want to work on while I am in Eastern Europe, is that I will need those three things. They are the most important ones. And that's an interesting realization. And then I started thinking of this idea of how resistance changes over time. For example, I remember that one of my traps was to learn everything I could about a specific subject and then go to work on it. But then you start learning everything you can about it. There is infinite knowledge, and there is infinite minutia that you can get into it. So that's a problem I basically cut out of my life. Whenever I learn how to learn properly, that if I need to know something, I go and I take a look at that and I come back. I actually talked a little bit about this on a previous episode. But I slayed that dragon. I slayed, for the most part, the procrastination dragon of just researching or doing other things. Like, I'm fairly decent at having deliverables to the day, at least compared to what I was before. And then I noticed that the main problem has been always about discipline and doubting myself and not seeing how good I am or how bad I am and all that. So over time, I was able to learn how to manage those things. But apparently resistance shifted in my life to this thing that, oh, I must really work on these other projects. And these ones, even though they are in a way the most important ones, they're a little bit in the back burner. And I kind of changed my perspective on what to do about this after I saw the other day this girl on the subway. She had a t-shirt that was written "Begin Anywhere." It was just that, I think it was like a white t-shirt, and it was just written there. And I thought that it was kind of a cool thing. It's a concept I think I even mentioned on this podcast before, but it's a great tool when you don't know what to do. You just do something, and that will help you out. And also, I got reminded again, I think it was yesterday when I was scrolling through Instagram, I saw this lovely idea presented by Chase Jarvis, who is a photographer that I really admire. That is just a phrase, it's like him with a camera, and he's writing, "Remember why you started." Remember why you started, together with this idea of begin anywhere. So in a way, it's this beautiful combination of having a reason to do things and an action step. My current thought is basically not try to strategize too much. Even today, I just came from a meeting about a specific photo shoot that will be featured in new portfolio piece. I actually don't really know exactly how it's gonna play out, and I will work on it. But the idea is you begin somewhere, and in this case, anywhere. The other thing about remember why you started is something that I intend to do. I was hoping to have done it today, but life happened, so I'll probably do it tomorrow, which is a little exercise in remember why you started. And the way that I'm going to do this is sort of like this. It's what photographer Eric Almes called a reverse perspective. It's an interesting exercise that whenever you see, let's say, a mountain you want to climb, you always see the problems that happen and all the unsurmountable nature of the big mountain in front of you. How the hell am I going to get there? I'm so far away from my goal. But he suggests this idea that you imagine that you're already on the top and you see how your life is and the things that you have accomplished. And then you look back and see, oh, how I did it. I did it this way. This was easy. This happened. That happened. It's sort of like creating a fictional representation of your future self, reflecting back on the things that you want to have already done. So it's kind of an interesting exercise. I'll let you know how it goes. The other thing that I wanted just to finish off is that I actually, after I had this talk with my wife about these problems and told her about my frustrations about the things that I was not doing. And again, I know it's not a lack of time. I already passed that resistance points that people often have, like, oh, I don't have time for it. No, you do. You just need to work on your priorities, do a little 80-20 of your activities and make time to do those things. In a way, we sort of feel like we're being too selfish when you're wanting to work on our projects, but one thing that you will notice as an artist, if you are already mid-range, is that there's like mid-range in your career, if you had already done a couple of things, is that there are certain things you sort of cannot live without. It's certain things that you really, really, really enjoy doing for the process of doing them. And the problem is that when you get to a certain level, is that maybe you didn't get all the results or all the success that you had hoped to have at this time in your career. And then you kind of fall a little bit out of love with that thing. But at the same time, whenever you are in it, you really love it. And you know that you really love the process. And you cannot love the process, you cannot love the thing for the results it's going to bring, because the results will come from the process. So it's this idea of being selfish in a way so that you can help other people by solving that problem for you. It's like you eat and then you have energy and then you can go and do things. You cannot deprive yourself of food because other people are hungry, if that makes any sense. So I would recommend as an exercise, which is something that I'm doing today. And again, I'm trying to do these things that they sound like advice, but they are basically me struggling with those ideas and reporting to you the things that I intend to do or that I am doing. And then you can consider for yourself if it's things that might be useful in your own creative practices. So the idea is, think of what you have to be doing to feel good about yourself. So that's one of those traps that many people have when they have like a regular 9-to-5 job and then they're unfulfilled. That actually can happen in art, because you start doing the things that are successful or that have more potential than other things, but then you sort of let it slide, the things that you really love. And that's basically the same trap. So it took me the beginning of 2020 to realize that that's the current manifestation of resistance in my own case. So with that, I will leave you for today. Again, my name is Pedro Bonatto. You can find me on all social media at Pedro Bonatto with 2 T's. You can check show notes, and if you can, I would ask you to share this privately to a friend. Oh, take a look at this, take a look at that. If there are any of these episodes, if you have been listening, this is the 32nd episode. If there are any episodes that they resonated with you more, or if there is anything that you'd like me to clarify or expand or update, let me know, and I'll certainly create an episode where I talk about those things. Also, for the few of you that actually asked for the postcards that I offered at the end of the year, thank you for your messages. I will be sending it out over the next couple of weeks, so you should get it in February. You'll get a nice Valentine's Day gift. So with that, I'll talk to you tomorrow.